Okay, let's take Michael Alton first. So for the record, 20 CF 167, 20 CF 168, and 23 CF 352.
Andrea Boyle on behalf of people.
Scott Holmeyer, Public Defender's Office, on behalf of Mr. Alton, is being brought out shortly, Your Honor, in the custody of the Kendall County Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. Alton.
Morning, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, just if you hear anything in the background, we're on hold for a Romanian interpreter, so I may have to pause and address that issue in the meantime. So at this time, you are before the court for 3 cases, 2 of which being post-sentence that you're on probation for, and the third being a pretrial case, which you had previously been placed on conditions of bond, I'll say, since it was prior to the new statute going into effect.
Yeah.
All right.
GPS.
Just, I understand you're on GPS, yes, but I wouldn't make any other statements about that. So it looks like, Mr. Holmeyer, your office was previously on this, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Alton would wish to be have our office reappointed for representation, the 2 PTRs and the pending pretrial case.
Excuse me for 1 moment. They hung up on us. All right, so I will reappoint the Public Defender's Office to your cases then, and Ms. Boyle.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, on the 23 CF 352, Mr. Ryan Alton was placed on a term of pretrial supervision before pretrial release. There are 2 petitions for sanctions pending. I'd asked to have those heard this morning prior to addressing conditions for pretrial release. Your Honor, the reason I'm doing that is because one of the things that the court could do, and not that we're asking you to do, but one of the things you could do is he could either be admonished on it, or he could not be sanctioned, and he could previously continued on his conditions. So I would be asking that the court hear the sanctions petition, as I believe that would logically go first, and then Your Honor, address any pretrial release conditions after the sanctions hearing as to what the court wishes for the defendant to have as conditions of release.
Thank you. Just to clarify, I do note that one of your sanctions petitions is in regards to GPS violations with Ms. Wolf. Are you ready to proceed on that, as well as the failure to appear sanctions hearing?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Mr. Holmeyer.
We'd be ready to proceed, Your Honor. Just for clarification, are we proceeding, which one are we proceeding on first?
Your Honor, I would ask to proceed on both of them at the same time. There is a February 5th, 2024 petition, as well as a March 13th, 2024 petition.
We'd be prepared to go forward on both.
All right, so at this time then, since both sides are ready to proceed on the sanctions petitions for hearing, Ms. Boyle, it is your motion for sanctions in regards to first the February 5th, 2024 motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, I'd ask to proceed by way of proffer. I would ask that the court take judicial notice of the contents of the court file, including the fact that the defendant was placed on GPS in the 23 CF 352 case. That was the initial order of the court. Furthermore, I would ask you to take judicial notice of the violation of the status of GPS report authored by the electronic home monitoring assistant coordinator Luke Lanehart, which indicates that the defendant violated his GPS order. Your Honor, he was admonished to make in court to make contact with the Kendall County Sheriff's Office GPS coordinator. That was on January 18th of 2024. And then he failed to make any kind of contact with the Sheriff's Office or the GPS EHM coordinator or assistant coordinator as of the date and time of the report, which was January 30th of 2024. Furthermore, I'd ask you to take judicial notice of the contents of the court file on that of the setting of the sanctions hearing in this matter on multiple court dates. The first court date that this was noticed into court for was February 22nd of 2024. The defendant appeared remotely. It was continued for the sanctions hearing to March 1st. On March 1st, the defendant appeared remotely again. And our request for hearing on the motion was entered and continued by the court, and he was admonished to appear in person on the next court date, which would have been March 6th. On March 6th, the defendant failed to appear, at which time then the court issued a warrant over the defense attorney's objection. And as you can see from the contents of the court file, the defendant did not appear for any of the scheduled sanctions hearings, even though he had been told he needed to appear. Your Honor, based on his violations of his sanctions as outlined in the February 5th petition, as well as the March 13th of 2024 petition, I am asking that you find that the defendant violated his pretrial release order, that both he failed to appear in court as required by the conditions of his release, as well as the fact that he failed to comply with the GPS order of the court, that you find that the defendant committed these acts and that he violated the terms of his pretrial release. He had actual knowledge of them. You could see that he was here in court when he was admonished of those orders, that his violation of the court order was willful and it was not caused by access to financial or monetary resources. As a result, Your Honor, I am asking that you sanction him to be imprisoned in the Kendall County Jail for a period of time of 30 days. And then once he is completed with his 30-day sentence, that he be once again released with those same conditions of GPS, that he be placed on pretrial services as a condition of his pretrial release, as that was a previous condition, and that he have the statutory conditions, including the sign up for the e-notify.
And Ms. Boyle, that was your argument in regards to both petitions for sanctions?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm asking for the 30 days in regards total.
Thank you. Mr. Holmeyer.
As way as a proper, Your Honor, after speaking with Mr. Alton, the remote appearances that he made on February 22nd, as well as March 1st, were based on the fact of transportation issues, Your Honor, as well as the failure to appear on March 6th. Speaking to Mr. Alton, he and his girlfriend, who he lives with and is outlined in the pretrial service investigation report regarding that she would be a transportation source now in the future. She recently was able to obtain an automobile so that she'll be able to get Mr. Alton to and from his next court dates. The inability to come to court and appear via remote appearance on February 22nd and the 1st, as well as the failure to appear on March 6th, were based on those lack of transportation issues, Your Honor, which are all monetary basis. He didn't have the money for an Uber to get over here. We would ask that if the court does find indeed that these violations, does indeed find for these violations, we would ask the court to consider either a verbal admonishment of Mr. Alton, or to consider the 3 days that he's been in custody. He was picked up by Aurora Police 3 days ago on Thursday, and to consider that as time served towards the sanction.
Any response to the failure to comply with the GPS order?
Your Honor, speaking with Mr. Alton, he did state that there were contacts that he attempted to make with the GPS agents here at the courthouse.
All right, thank you both. I want to review the pretrial services investigation report once again. For the court at this time are 2 petitions for sanctions. Defendant previously having been placed on conditions of pretrial release, formerly under the old bond statute. Defendant was ordered to appear at all court dates. Defendant was ordered to comply with the GPS order. Defendant was ordered not to commit any new criminal offenses. And the court is going to find that he was present for those court dates, had actual knowledge of his requirements and conditions with regard to the GPS order, as well as appearing in court. The state filed a petition for sanctions on February 5th in regards to failure to even contact the GPS coordinator officer in regards to being placed on GPS. That was at least 12 days after. Actually, that was. I'll think he was re-admonished in open court on January 18th to make contact with the GPS officers, and that was 2 months after the GPS order was initially entered. And as of January 30th, 12 days after that re-admonishment in court, he still had failed to make contact of any kind with the GPS EHM coordinator or assistant coordinator as of the date of their report. There's nothing in the record to contradict this morning at the hearing that was not the case. With regard to his appearances, he was appearing on Zoom. He was given multiple opportunities and was told that there would be a hearing in person on the March 6th date, when finally, after the third in-person failure to appear, the court issued a warrant. The court also notes from the pretrial services investigation report that by defendant's own information, he currently is residing with the girlfriend that Mr. Holmeyer mentioned. It was stated to the court today that she recently obtained an automobile, but the court is puzzled in that defendant also reports that he's been working at Taco Bell in Naperville when he lives in Aurora for the past 7 months and earns approximately $2,500 per month. So clearly he's been able to make it to work. It seems that the priority was not to come to court, especially in light of the fact that it was set for a sanctions hearing. So at this time, the court finds that those were the conditions of pretrial release that were put in place. Defendant was present when those were put in place. He was admonished and re-admonished a number of times by Judge Pilmer with regard to that. He knew that the petition for sanctions for both of those, the GPS lack of contact, as well as then the fact that he was to appear in court, he was given multiple opportunities to get here in person after appearing on Zoom a number of times. I do find that the violation was willful and not caused by a lack of access to financial resources based on the information that the court has before it this morning in the pretrial services investigative report, which comes from the defendant's own information given to court services. And therefore, I do find that you have violated those conditions. I will grant the state's petition filed February 5th of 2024, as well as March 13th of 2024. And I am going to sentence you to a sanction of 7 days total. No good time to apply for those. Credit for the 3 days already served, so you'll have to serve an additional 4 days. And then with regard to conditions of release, subsequent to that, Mr. Holmeyer, did you want to make any response to the state's request for those conditions?
No, Your Honor.
So at this time, since you were previously on GPS, sir, I will, after you serve the rest of your sanctions term, the additional 4 days, place you on conditions of pretrial release, there being no petition or revoke by the state at this time, since he's on bond here and it appears he picked up a felony in Kane County. So I'm not sure that'll be addressed either by the state or by Judge Gleason on her own motion. This case will go back in front of her. But with regard to this case at this time, the state is recommending conditions of pretrial release. I do find it appropriate to place you back on GPS. So you will not be released until you're placed back on GPS. The following conditions will then also apply. You must appear at each and every court date until final disposition of your case. You must not violate any criminal statute of any jurisdiction. You have to submit yourself to the orders and process of the court. If you have a change in address within 24 hours of that address change, you have to notify the circuit clerk's office here in writing of your new address. You'll be ordered to sign up for e-notify through the circuit clerk's website, and that will notify you via text or email of all of your upcoming court dates. Do we have a suggested next court date then back in 115?
Your Honor, if we could have it shortly after his release date, so we can make sure that he is appearing in court as he's required to do so. Your Honor, I would suggest if he is in for 4 more days, that would put us at the 8th of May. So if we could have perhaps May 9th for him to appear back before Judge Gleason in courtroom 115.
To be in agreement, Judge.
All right, May 9th at, 9 AM by agreement. With regard to that, sir, I'm going to advise you on the conditions of pretrial release after you serve the rest of the sanctions term. I'm advising you that if you fail to appear for any future court date or you violate the conditions of pretrial release, you may be subject to a petition to revoke your pretrial release and held in custody until we had a hearing and or until your case is completed. You could also be subject to an additional petition for sanctions, at which time upon a finding that the state proved by clear and convincing evidence that you violated a condition of your pretrial release, the court could sanction you up to 30 days in jail, no good time to apply. Lastly, you have a right to file a motion for relief from the court's order today for the conditions of pretrial release that the court has set. Those are the 5 conditions that I just set, including the GPS order. The motion for relief must be include the same relief that you seek on appeal. And the grounds for such relief must be included in your original written motion for relief. Upon appeal, any issue not raised in your original written motion for relief shall be deemed waived for purposes of that appeal. The court will also revisit the conditions of release that I just set today at each subsequent court appearance, regardless of whether a motion for relief has been filed or not. Do you understand your rights with regard to filing a motion for relief from the conditions of pretrial release?
What do you mean by a motion for relief?
Well, that's the new statute that went into effect on April 15th. So you no longer have a right to appeal out of conditions court. You have to first file a motion for relief. So it's similar to a motion to reconsider a sentence or a motion to reconsider a judge's trial ruling. So you would have to, if you wish to appeal the conditions of pretrial release, or it's not appeal, if you wish to ask the court to reconsider the conditions of pretrial release, meaning the GPS, that you not violate any laws.
I mean, are you just gonna revisit it? I mean,
At each subsequent court date, the court is required to revisit any conditions of pretrial release, that being making you appear in court, asking that you not commit any new criminal offenses in your GPS order.
okay, I wanted to just let the court know that I actually have a FCA in DuPage County, so when I get released from here, I'm going to go there. I'm just, so I don't even know if I'm gonna be here on time, that's why I'm asking. It'd probably be a week later.
You're looking to have a later date.
I'll later date then.
We probably need to address that issue as well. So are you, with that failure to appear warrant out of DuPage, are you waiving any extradition hearing and asking that DuPage just be allowed to pick you up?
Oh, yeah, it's just a misdemeanor case.
Okay, so if you can add that to the order that he's waiving any extradition hearing, please, in regards to the DuPage warrant. And then let's change the May 9th and let's just set this for. Let's see. Let's do DuPage, let's just do May 20th, because the next week is jury week, so
Very good, Judge.
May 20th.
And
Sir, again, if you fail to appear, as you see, another warrant's going to issue for your arrest.
Okay,
Once the orders are ready, your attorney is going to have you sign all of those.
Your Honor, with the GPS, if he is going to DuPage County, I would ask that he be hooked up within 24 hours of his release from DuPage County.
So Ms. Will just brought up a good point, since he is going to DuPage County and he's technically, after he serves his sanctions, he's released here, he'll have to report back to the courthouse during business hours within 24 hours of release from DuPage to be hooked up to GPS. Do you understand that, sir?
yes, okay, yeah, I am hooked to a GPS, I just gotta charge it.
Right, but when you leave here to go to DuPage, I suspect that our officers here will remove that. They're not going to probably send you over there
Come
with that.
back and be refitted.
Oh, it's not due patient credit.
Yeah.
And they're not, I am.
Right. So once you're released from DuPage, within 20, my order is going to be within 24 hours of your release from DuPage, you need to come to the sheriff's office or court services? Ms. Boyle, where should he report?
I believe it's the sheriff's office because they do after hours GPS hookups. If it's during business hours, then here at the courthouse, they would do it. Oops. And here is the intentions. Trying to make some of that, which is previously not burning. I did not do any GPS or anything, the old one is still. Then I did not, there's that, or if they need with the custody.
Okay. Yep. You'll get copies of all that stuff. I approach your honor.
Yes, you may. Thank you. I'm now on hold for Spanish interpreter. I just thought that might be quicker, but we'll see.
Please continue to hold for the next available interpreter. Please continue to hold for the next available interpreter.
All right, great. Good morning. This is Judge Accardi, and I will call the case shortly. They will bring the individual out. We're here for a bond call this morning. All right, thank you. One moment. Spanish interpreters online. So people be Juan David Serrano Mejia. That's 24 DB 59.
Andrea Boyle on behalf of the people.
Scott Holmeyer on behalf of Mr. Mayhoff, who is present in the custody of Kendall County Sheriff.
Good morning, sir. You are Mr. Serrano Mejia.
Yes.
If I can ask the Spanish interpreter to please interpret for me.
Yes, of course, Your Honor. Can you repeat that for me?
Yes, good morning. You are Mr. Serrano Mejia, is that correct?
Hola, yo soy intérprete español. Buenos días. Usted es el señor Serrano Mejía, ¿correcto?
You are before the court for a number of charges which I will review at this time.
Usted está frente a los juzgados por un número de cargos que vamos a revisar en este momento.
The first count is domestic battery, a class A misdemeanor.
Lo primero es batería doméstica, que es un delito menor.
There's a second count of domestic battery, also a class A misdemeanor.
Hay un grado 2 de batería doméstica, también es un delito menor.
The third count is theft, a class A misdemeanor.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? The third is theft.
Theft, also a class A misdemeanor.
El tercero es robo, también es un delito menor clase A.
You are also charged with a class B misdemeanor, driving without a valid license.
También se le está haciendo un cargo de un delito menor, clase B, conducir sin licencia de conducir.
As well as the offenses of no insurance and improper registration use.
Al mismo tiempo, el no seguro del carro, no tener seguro automovilístico y un registro inapropiado del vehículo.
Do you understand the charges against you, or would you like me to read the specific complaints to you?
¿Entiende los cargos que se le están haciendo, señor, o quiere que le lean los específicos de cada cargo?
Sí, los entiendo. Solo,
I do understand it.
Thank you. At this time, I see that you requested that I consider appointing the public defender.
Gracias, señor. Estoy viendo que hizo la petición de que se le considerara para que se le asignara un defensor público.
But at this time, based on your income that you reported, you do not qualify.
Pero basado en el ingreso que usted reportó, señor, usted no califica.
However, I will appoint them to represent you this morning for the hearing.
Sin embargo, sí los voy a asignar esta mañana para que lo representen en esta audiencia.
After that, between now and the next court date, you would need to hire your own attorney then.
Después de eso, y en lo que es la fecha de su próxima audiencia, va a tener que contratar un abogado por su cuenta propia.
I'm going to advise you that the maximum penalty for the Class A misdemeanor cases
Le voy a decir que la penalidad máxima para los delitos menores de clase A
is up to a year in jail and a $2,500 fine.
es hasta un año en cárcel y una fianza, una infracción de hasta $2,500.
For the Class B misdemeanor, the maximum is up to 6 months in jail and a $1,500 fine.
Para los delitos menores de clase B, la sentencia máxima es de 6 meses de encarcelamiento o $1,500 de multa.
You are presumed innocent of the charges against you.
Usted es presuntamente inocente por los cargos de que se le están haciendo.
You have the right to have a trial by a jury,
sí, todo,
Tiene el derecho de tener un juicio con jurados.
or if you waive that right, a trial by a judge.
O si retira ese derecho, un juicio con juez.
You have the right to be present at all of your court dates.
Tiene el derecho de estar presente en todas sus fechas de tribunal, de juzgados.
If you fail to appear for a court date, a warrant could issue for your arrest.
Si usted falla en comparecerse en las audiencias, una orden de su arresto será emitida.
If you fail to appear when your case is set for trial, you could be tried, convicted, and sentenced without you being here.
Si usted falla en estar presente en su juicio, el juicio continuará y podrá ser sentenciado sin usted estar presente.
You have the right to be represented by an attorney at all stages of the proceedings.
Usted tiene el derecho de ser representado por un abogado en todos los procesos.
If you are a foreign national, you have the right to communicate with your consular representatives.
Si usted es un foráneo nacional, tiene su derecho de contactarse con un representante de su consulado.
I'm also advising you that anyone convicted of domestic battery
También le quiero decir que cualquier persona que haya sido sentenciada a batería doméstica
is subject to federal criminal penalties
I'm sorry, Your Honor, can you repeat that?
Yes, is subject to federal criminal penalties
Está sujeto a penalidades federales criminales
for the possession,
por la posesión,
transportation,
transporte,
receiving
recibir
of firearms or ammunition
armas de fuego o munición
in violation of
en infracción a
the Federal Gun Control Act of 1968.
1958, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, 6868.
Thank you very much. Al acto federal de 1968.
Ms. Boyle.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, can you hear me, Mr. Interpreter?
Yes, I can.
Your Honor, if I
If
may.
you need to
just-
step closer, you can.
Your Honor, at this time, I've had limited contact with the victim in this matter.
Señoría, en este momento he tenido contacto limitado con el acusado de este asunto,
As she is Spanish speaking.
ya que es un hispanohablante.
However, based on my limited conversation with the victim,
Sin embargo, por mis conversaciones limitadas con la víctima,
I'm asking for no contact of any kind with the victim, Kelly Swanston,
estoy haciendo una solicitud de ningún tipo de contacto con la víctima, Kelly Watson,
that he, under the conditions of the Domestic Violence Act, not go to her residence
y bajo la condición del acto federal de que no se presente en su residencia, que no vaya, no se comparezca en su residencia.
However, I'm asking that this be until further order of the court.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm asking for this to be until further order of the court,
Sin embargo, estoy pidiendo que eso sea por orden del juez
and that if the defendant has any firearms, ammunition, or other dangerous weapons,
y que si el acusado tiene armas de fuego, munición o cualquier otro tipo de armas de fuego,
that he immediately turn those over to the Montgomery Police Department,
que entregue inmediatamente todo esto a la policía de Montgomery.
and that if he has a valid FOID card,
Y que si tiene una tarjeta válida de VOID,
that he turn that over to the clerk of the court
que entregue eso a los tribunales
within 48 hours of his release.
dentro de las primeras 48 horas de su liberación.
And those would be the request of the state
Esas peticiones se le hacen al Estado
as the conditions for his release
como condiciones de su liberación
on today's date.
en la fecha de hoy.
Thank you. Mr. Holmeyer, your response, please.
As based on the state's answers regarding their contact with the alleged victim,
Basado en las peticiones de no contacto con la víctima,
being limited in nature based upon the language barrier,
limitado naturalmente por la barrera del lenguaje,
we'd ask for the court to consider no harmful or offensive contact with the alleged victim.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, can you please ask for a repetition of that?
We would ask for no harmful or offensive contact as a bond condition.
Se le hace la petición a los tribunales de contacto no dañino y de no contacto como condiciones de la libertad condicional.
as well as to allow Mr. Mejia
Así como permitir al señor Mejía
to return to the address after the 72-hour stay away provision.
de regresar a la dirección después de las 72 horas del estar alejado.
We would further ask the court for that 72-hour period
Le pediremos a los tribunales del periodo de 72 horas
to allow him to return with law enforcement to collect any personal items or medication.
para permitirle regresar a la dirección acompañado de fuerzas policíacas para que él recoja sus objetos personales y medicamentos.
Based upon this limited contact with the alleged victim,
Basado acerca del contacto limitado con la víctima alegada,
as well as the inability to have a proper Virginia pretrial risk assessment done,
así como la inhabilidad de poder hacer apropiadamente el prejuicio de Virginia de riesgo
based on the late
de
filing,
valoración,
based upon the late filing of charges,
based upon what's right.
the late filing of charges.
Basado en la administración tardía de los cargos.
Without that instrument and victim input,
Sin esos instrumentos y sin el aporte de la víctima,
we'd ask for those conditions.
hacemos la solicitud de esas condiciones.
Thank you. State, this is a detainable offense. I want to clarify for the record, you are not filing a petition to detain at this time, correct?
I am not, Your Honor.
Sorry, if we can give the interpreter a moment.
Yes, can you repeat that, Your Honor?
Yes. I wanted to clarify with the state, you are not filing a petition to detain him at this time, correct?
Nada más quiero ser muy clara, porque esta es una ofensa por la cual puede ser detenido. No se está haciendo la petición para que sea detenido en este momento, ¿correcto?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Eso es correcto, su señoría.
Given that, sir, the court is going to release you on conditions of pretrial release.
Dicho esto, señor, los juzgados lo van a liberar con las condiciones de prejuicio.
The conditions will be as follows.
Las condiciones serán las siguientes, señor.
You must appear at each and every court date until final disposition of your case.
Tiene que comparecerse en todas y cada una de las audiencias de los tribunales hasta que se tome la decisión final.
You are ordered not to violate any criminal statute of any jurisdiction.
Se le ordena que no infrinja ningún acto criminal en ninguna de sus formas.
You have to submit to the orders and process of the court.
Tiene que seguir las órdenes y procesos de los tribunales.
If your address changes,
Si su dirección cambia,
you have to notify the circuit clerk's office within 24 hours what your new address is.
tiene que notificar a la oficina del circuit clerk dentro de las primeras 24 horas que se haya mudado.
You will also be ordered not to possess any firearms,
También se le ordena que no puede poseer ningún tipo de arma de fuego,
ammunition,
posesión,
was it ammunition, firearm ammunition?
y tampoco munición de armas de fuego.
or any dangerous weapons
o cualquier arma peligrosa.
you must immediately surrender any of those items to the Montgomery Police Department
Tiene que entregar cualquiera de esos objetos a la policía de Montgomery, a la oficina de la policía de Montgomery.
if you have a firearms owner
Si tiene una arma de fuego en su posesión,
identification card
la tarjeta de identificación,
you must surrender that within 48 hours to the circuit clerk's office.
tiene que entregar esto dentro de las 48 horas en la oficina del Craig Office, la oficina del Craig.
At this time, although the state has not had full contact with the complaining witness,
En este momento el Estado no ha tenido contacto completo con el testigo.
the court notes from the sworn synopsis from the police officer
El tribunal anotó de la sinapsis del oficial
that it's alleged that the complaining witness was in the vehicle of another individual
de que el alegado testigo se encontraba en el vehículo de otra persona
when Mr. Serrano Mejia blocked that vehicle in,
cuando el señor Mejía bloqueó el vehículo en el donde estaba el testigo.
further, he opened the door of that vehicle and grabbed the complaining witness by her arm.
Él continuó a abrir la puerta del vehículo y agarró al testigo,
Causing red marks to her arm
causándole marcas rojas en sus brazos
and allegedly stealing her phone at that time.
I'm sorry, and then one more time.
Allegedly stealing her phone at that time.
Y alegadamente robando su celular en ese momento.
A third-party witness also observed this event and contacted police.
Una tercera persona también fue testigo de este evento y fue el que contactó a la policía.
So based on the allegations in that summary from the officer,
Basado en las alegaciones de ese resumen que emitió el oficial,
the court, until further order,
el tribunal, hasta que haya una orden futura,
is going to order no contact of any kind
va a ordenar ningún tipo de contacto
with the complaining witness
de el testigo alegado.
that being Kelly Cantillo Swanston,
Esa persona siendo Kelly Watson,
and no entry until further order
y ningún tipo de entrada hasta una orden futura
at her address listed as 350 Center Avenue in Aurora.
en su dirección listada como 350 Center Avenida en Aurora.
Yes.
I will grant one-time access with the Aurora Police Department
Voy a conceder un acceso de una sola ocasión con un guardián como policía.
For you to get clothing,
Para que ustedes puedan recuperar su ropa,
medication,
medicamento
and any items needed for work.
y cualquier objeto que necesite para el trabajo.
It sounds like there might be some other circumstances that each of the attorneys needs to look into between now and the next court date.
Parece ser que hay otras circunstancias que los abogados van a tener que indagar más entre ahora y la próxima fecha de corte.
So they can each file a motion to modify those conditions if they need to be modified.
Entonces, cada uno de ustedes puede hacer la solicitud de hacer una modificación en esas mociones si es que se necesita.
What court date would you like, Mr. Holmeyer?
How long do you need to get an attorney?
How long does he need to get an attorney? If you can ask, please translate that.
¿Cuánto tiempo se tardaría en conseguir un abogado, señor?
No sé, tal vez 3 días.
3 días.
Sí, tal vez 3 días, una semana.
3 days
Three
or
days.
4 weeks. We'll continue this to,
That's for maybe April, or maybe Monday, May 20th, would that be okay?
Sure.
Monday, May 20th, Judge.
all right, I will set the court date at Monday, May 20th at 8:30 in the morning.
Ok, vamos a pasar esta audiencia el día mayo 20, 8:30 de la mañana,
In this courtroom, 114.
en estos tribunales 1:14, en este juzgado 1:14.
Sir, if you wish to modify, or ask the court to rehear any issues regarding your release conditions,
Si usted desea modificar o hacer una petición al juzgado por alguna modificación,
you would have to file a motion for relief with the circuit clerk's office.
tendría que hacer una petición de una moción de liberación en la oficina del circuit clerk,
Prior to filing any appeal.
eso lo tiene que hacer previo a hacer la solicitud de cualquier apelación.
You would have to include all relief sought on appeal in your original motion for relief.
Tiene que incluir en la liberación, en la moción original para su liberación en la apelación.
The court will also revisit the conditions of release at each subsequent court date.
El tribunal también va a revisar sus condiciones de liberación en cada fecha subsecuente de audiencia,
Regardless of if a motion for relief has been filed.
sin importar de que la moción de la liberación haya sido emitida.
If you fail to appear at any future court date, a warrant could issue for your arrest.
Fallar al comparecer a cualquier fecha de audiencia podrá ser sujeto a que se emita una orden de su arresto.
If you violate any of the conditions of pretrial release, the court could hold you in custody until we had a hearing on that petition to revoke your conditions.
Si usted infracciona las condiciones de liberación del prejuicio, se mantendrá en custodia hasta la audiencia para la petición de la revocación de las condiciones.
Ms. Boyle, are the papers ready for him to sign?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your attorney is waiting,
Los
sorry, go ahead.
papeles ya están listos para que los firme.
Your attorney is going to have you sign the orders that I just verbally advised you of the conditions on.
Entonces su abogado va a darle los papeles para que firme las condiciones que verbalmente le dije ahorita.
My first, sir.
You may. That concludes your matter this morning, sir.
Eso concluye el asunto de esta mañana.
We'll see you back in court May 20th.
Lo vemos de regreso en los juzgados, mayo 20.
8 AM, 8 AM,
8:30 a.m.
okay,
Also in media.
okay.
8:30 de la mañana.
Thank you. All right, and thank you to the interpreter,
Thank you for using the service, Your Honor. You have a great day.
you as well. I would have been in the afternoon, but I just fell. All right, I need to, yes, I need to call back for a Romanian interpreter.
One of your language line solutions, please enter your 6-digit client ID. For Spanish, press 1, or please speak the name of the desired language.
Romanian.
I understood Romanian. If this is correct, say yes or press 1. If this... Please hold for the next available associate. Please hold for the next available associate. Please hold for the next available associate. Please hold for the next available associate.
Yep.
Please hold for the next available associate.
I see this happening.
Makes $2,000 a week as a truck driver. 2 kids though, so I don't know.
Please hold for the next available associate.
They're of our clients, truck drivers.
available associate.
I don't know if I agree with this language line on that. And they asked to add that on the initial transfer, you know, there. So that way. On, Mr. Serrano Mahia, can I see the initial?
Please hold for the next available.
Your Honor, may I just indicate on here that the interpret, we use language line on there, so there's no question that he was given.
Sure. Thank you.
Please hold for the next available associate.
Let's go back to the jail.
Hello? 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 Good thing I happened last time. I'm holding for a Romanian interpreter. Hello? He just disconnected me a second time.
Welcome to Language Line Solutions. Please enter your six-digit client ID. For Spanish, press 1, or please state the name of the desired language.
Romanian.
I understood Romanian. If this is correct, say yes or press 1. Please hold for the next available associate. Please hold for the next available associate. Please hold for the next available associate.